China is for China. China is not for Africa. How can an African be a foreigner in an African country? To gain mentality, we need to let go of the influence of the West. We were still colonized under white supremacists. All right. Good morning, good afternoon, good day, wherever you are. This is your host, Maneza F8. Welcome to FKU Africa Podcast. Thanks for watching the previous episodes, most especially the one that is dedicated to the life of George Floyd. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube and also check the podcast out on Apple Podcast and also on Spotify. So today we're not gonna be dwelling much on Africa. We're gonna be talking about a certain individual. We're gonna be celebrating the life of the legend, the life of a hero, the life of a conqueror, the life of an activist, the life of a Pan-African, Muammar Gaddafi. So as you know that tomorrow on the 7th of June, it's his birthday. So we're going to be talking about his rise to power and his fall. So without wasting any time, Muammar Gaddafi was born in Libya in 1942 on the 7th of June. So he studied in Libya and later on 1963 joined the army, where he became more prominent as an activist because at that time Libya was it was ruled by a monarch. He was ruled by a king, and British was all over. Italy was all over, and at that time Libya, about 75% of people were not educated. Even the youth, they couldn't read at that time before Muammar Gaddafi took power. So during that course of his time in the army, him and some of his soldiers, because he had become a colonel, they organized a movement because they saw that it's time for change and it's time to liberate themselves from the Western powers and from the monarchy that was ruling there, which was not doing anything for the people. So in 1969, they organized a coup to take King Idris out. That's where it all started. That's where now you see the Gaddafi you see now. That's where it all began for him. It began on 1969, where he took over as a colonel. And then in 1970, he kicked out Italy army bases and British army bases. And in 1973, he nationalized all sectors. He took over the petroleum sector, where Libya was making a lot of money back then, but it was not benefiting anything for the people of Libya. So what he did, he nationalized all those sectors, and he took over from British petroleum. and make it a state asset, which eluded into the riches of Libya up until today. So, what he did after he nationalized, he gave people free education, he gave them free housing, he gave them free health care, which was important, and also made sure that the hunger is a thing of the past for the people of Libya. And make sure that youth, most especially, is educated and women are in power. And he was for women most of the time. He was for women empowerment. He had his soldiers as women. Wherever he goes, he would go with his soldiers who were women, and some would say those women were virgins. He preferred those women to be around him because he trusted them with his life. So during at that time, it was not easy for an African country to take so much control and uh, just kick out all the Western influence and just make sure that he is the ruler of um Libya without any influence. It was hard. It was not easy. There were attempts in his life, but they were failed. They failed. So around at that time when he took over, make sure that he banned all alcohol, beverages, all gamblings, because he knew that a country that is drunk is not a country that is ready for what's to come. It's not a country that is ready to fight the fight that was to come. And to wrap it into the Western anti-imperialism and Western oppressors and Western colonizers, he supported all the anti-imperialist group and anti-colonialist groups and all those groups that were fighting for human rights. The groups like Black Panther, the Nation of Islam in America. He supported all those groups, and that made him a target to countries like USA and Europe because they see him as a terrorist, as someone that is giving power to the voiceless. So what they do when they see that you are now becoming against them, what they do to you, they kill you, those countries. So in 1986, under the presidents of Reagan in America, Ronald Reagan, they launched airstrikes to Muammar Gaddafi's compound in Libya. But you know why? It's because they saw him as a threat, and those airstrikes they missed him. They missed him, and instead they kill his child. They kill his child, and that was devastating for him. But he left, and he lived, and he had another kid. So that was a failure for them in that case. So just imagine to be a ruler in the country that you took from the king that didn't care about the people, that had people who were hungry, people who were living in the desert, in the tents, because also he was born in the tent in the desert, to a country that is flourishing. His GDP is above 60% per capita, and he took over the petroleum, the oil, the what is important to the West, and he supports the groups that are fighting against the white dominance and white supremacists. So imagine people would want to make sure that he doesn't live to see those success. And at that time, Libya was having around 140 tribes. Imagine ruling over 150 different kinds of people, different tribes, different ethnic groups, and in different cultures, because every tribe got its own culture and traditions. But he managed to rule those people and managed to give them riches, managed to give them free housings, education, health care, which up until now, America have not yet been able to give free health care to the poor, free education, and free housing to the people. They haven't, but he managed to, without their help, without everything that they had to give, without their aid. That is what he was fighting. So imagine doing that. Of course, you would be painted as a terrorist, which they did. And we as Africans, we were fed that narrative that Muammar Gaddafi is a terrorist, is abusing people, is abusing his power and all that. But the matter of the fact is that he did what the king couldn't do, and he did much better for the people of Libya. You can say whatever you want about him, but the fact remains he gave them the life that they never had and that they never even dreamed of. Because up until his death, Libya has been flourishing. His GDP has been skyrocketing. Libya has been one of the most richest country. And Muammar Gaddafi, he was one of the richest presidents. By the time that he eventually died, he worth around 200 billion. Imagine that. And most kings and most presidents around the world and most ministers, they don't worth that much. So it was known and anticipated that eventually they would manage to kill him, which they failed over so many years. So those were the things that Muammar Gaddafi did for his people. And his people, I would say, they didn't know what they wanted. They didn't know what was good for them when they attempted to kill him. Because you killed someone that is stabilizing the country. You put the country in a good shape for over so many years, over 40 years. And you decide that this guy must go. We kill him. Then what? Where's the logic in killing someone that is providing so much aid to the country? Someone is providing high security to the country. Because for him to survive this long, he formed alliances with the people that he knew that they would protect him. all the surrounding countries in Libya. He formed alliances to those countries such as Egypt, Morocco, Tunisia, Chad, and all those countries. Make sure that uh, the likes of America won't go through those countries and get into him. And made sure that if we form alliances with South American countries, the likes of Cuba, Venezuela, and also formed alliances with the Russia, which is the number one enemy of America, and France also. He formed alliances with France so that he would be protected. You see, that was his strategic move that kept him alive for so long. So in 2009, he became the chairperson of AU. I think that's where it all started. I think that was the changing point in his life, because when he became the chairperson of AU, he, he moved the motion of One Africa, the United African States, into action. He put together committees and make sure that in 2015 that goal will be reached. But as those news travels to countries like America, to Europe, to China, they saw a threat, because if Africa is now united, there will be no place for them to come and milk our resources. There will be no chance for them and come and give us pocket aid that is covered with loans that will enrich their countries at the end. They saw that this guy is a threat, because that motion was moving. He was making sure that things are moving. People are getting engaged, and he was making speeches that was moving the whole Africa, speeches that was uniting the whole Africa into seeing the goal of having that one African government, that one African unity. And that was the turning point. And out of the blue, the rebels started to show up in 2010, started to rise against him in Benghazi, in Libya. And those rebels, it was the youth that didn't know what had happened before in Libya. What was the Libya before Muammar Gaddafi? What change did he do? And what change did he make towards Africa? What change he made towards the Islamic nations? They didn't know. All they wanted to do is to remove him, because they saw him like someone that is enriching himself, and he didn't care about them, while their country was flourishing and their country was rich with resources that was circulating in the country. So in 2010, the late 2010, the rebels started to secure some pieces of Benghazi, taking over some army bases, some state resources, some people in power, capturing some people in power, and Muammar Gaddafi saw that as a threat, because now that 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 place, it's also the place that has too much oil, too much wealth that is generated. That's where most of the riches of Libya was, and they captured it. the rebels. So he saw them as a threat and sent soldiers to go and secure those petroleum plants and those oil plants. And people fought back because they were armed. They had all kinds of weapons. They were supplied by who? You figure that out. So in doing that, now uh, the UN Security Council saw that, oh, now is their time, is their chance to go and intervene. They sent NATO. Who is NATO? NATO is the Northern Atlantic Treaty Organization, which is some sort of a alliance army between the United States and some countries in Europe. That's what it was formed for, to intervene in situations where countries are in trouble, and most presidents are in trouble. But it was not sent because Gaddafi was in trouble. It was sent because they wanted the army to work against Gaddafi. That's exactly what happened. And before they sent NATO, they made sure that they sanction him in Europe and America, sanction him also, and froze his assets that were about 30 billion, so that he won't have uh, uh, money to fight off these rebels. But through all that, he fought them off and he took over most of the stuff that they took over before. And they saw that, oh, now this guy is winning again. They saw it as it important of importance that, okay, now if he is winning back these resources, let's send NATO to go and intervene. And that those rebels, they were dying down now at that time in early 2011, around January to February. They were dying down. But when NATO arrived, they gained strength because NATO supplied them with weapons. And around February, they had taken back all those resources. The rebels had taken back all the petroleum resources, and also with the help of NATO, they launched airstrikes to Tripoli, where Gaddafi lived. They bombed him. They bombed his compound. Still, they missed. They missed him. Instead, they killed his youngest son and his grandchild. Imagine that. They killed his child and his 3 grandchild. Instead of the ICC go and help out another president in trouble, they sanctioned him. They opened cases against Gaddafi because they say he was in crimes against humanity. Okay, in March they opened cases. In June they issued a warrant of arrest towards Gaddafi. But he was the one that was bombed by NATO and the rebels. So now it's beyond June. They haven't captured him, but the rebels now are occupying the rest of the left resources and states there in Libya. They are getting close to the capital town where Gaddafi was. And at that time, it became now clear that now Gaddafi is fighting a losing fight. and they captured most of his intelligent army commanders and treasuries, people who were controlling money, all the ministers. They captured them. Some they killed them, some they arrested them. Now, what was left, it was his compound where he was living, which was heavily secured. In October 2011, on the 20th, they got into where he was staying, captured him, and killed him like a dog. They killed Muammar Gaddafi like a dog and paraded him around the streets. Who did that? His people that he fought for and gave free aid, free education, free healthcare, free houses, and all these things at that point didn't matter to them. They killed him like a dog. They had the choice to arrest him so that he can stand trial. They didn't. They opted to kill him because that was what they were there for. But the ICC didn't open any cases against them. Nothing. Instead, they were rejoicing. If you can see a video where Hillary Clinton of America are laughing out, rejoicing the death of Muammar Gaddafi, you will come into tears. It's a horrific picture to see. Now let's talk about aftermath. After Muammar Gaddafi died, NATO is still there, is assisting the rebels because there were still people who were fighting against the rebels who were still for Gaddafi, still supporting Gaddafi's government, still fighting for Gaddafi's government to come into power because they knew what importance he gave to them, what importance it was for them to have such a leader to keep peace. From then, there was never peace. There was never an official elected president. It's been wars all along. NATO is, in 2016, they were still accused of striking the people who were for Gaddafi. They captured his son. In 2015, he was sentenced to death. And the country is in chaos. The GDP went down. They bombed most of the petroleum tanks that they have. It's havoc in Libya. The life that they are living now, it's the life of the same as in Israel and Afghanistan. People are just scared, and there's bombing all over. No one wants to go to Libya right now. Most of the people who are rich in Libya left and seek asylums in other countries. So, was it a good thing to kill him? Perhaps, if you look it in the way of the rebels, the way that they looked at it, maybe it was good. But for everyone to see now, for everyone that is observing what is going on now, we can all see that it was a mistake to kill such a profound leader, to kill someone that was doing the most for the people, to kill someone that was uniting the whole Africa, to kill someone that was fighting off white supremacy, to kill someone that was uniting the whole Islamic nations, to kill someone of that importance. So yeah, we say happy birthday to the hero. May your spirit live on. We still celebrate you even now. Yeah, I hope you enjoyed this episode. Make sure that you subscribe, hit the button below, subscribe, and hit the bell. If you are listening on Spotify, make sure you hit the follow. It's there on top. If you are listening on Apple Podcasts, make sure you hit the subscribe and scroll down. You will see the ratings. Leave the ratings there and leave the comment on why do you rate this podcast so high. Peace. Fikiria kwa undani ndugu. Asante. Tsamaku. Africa. One love.